Sakui Garbode, and welcome to Cassus Café. And this week we are finally at the Mandalorian Season 3, Episode 8 finale. And I'm here with Kleina.
Hello!
And Captain.
Hello.
And we finally got Tykoth back from the Trandoshans again for this final episode. Welcome, Tykoth. Are y'all excited, ready to talk about the season finale?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'm ready to talk. I wouldn't say I'm excited.
Oh, well, all right.
Yeah.
Started off on a positive note.
Oh yeah, heck yeah. That's how we do things here. So, I have a little bit of a difference in structure here for this episode I want to do. We're gonna start off with our ratings, our 1 through 10 ratings, and then we're gonna discuss it and we'll compare at the end, see if our ratings change after we talk about it. It could go up, it could go down, we'll see. But I'm curious what your guys' ratings, with no context, just what you rate the episode, and then we'll go from there. So let's start with Captain.
All right, putting me on the hot seat.
Yep.
I thought it was all right. 6.5.
Okay. Tykoth.
I'm going to go 8.
All right. Kleiner.
6.5.
I'm going to go with a 7. So, all right. First off, in general, I felt the episode was good. Question mark. There's a lot to enjoy and a lot of cool things in the episode. I couldn't help but have a smile on my face on a few parts and really kind of get into it. But I'm kind of a sucker for action. You guys kind of know me. And this episode was all action, just almost the entire time. So it was easy for me to get kind of wrapped into it. But on subsequent viewings and on my first viewing, I did write most of my notes here on the first viewing, so I did catch a lot of stuff while watching it the first time, but for the most part I enjoyed it. But there's definitely some interesting plot issues that I have, and it's mainly plot and a little bit of inconsistencies.
Yep.
So yeah, mainly just plot. Otherwise everything else was great. So yeah, I'm curious to see what you guys think, and then we can get into the nitty-gritty.
Yep.
So let's go ahead. What about you, Clan?
Just my general thoughts.
Yeah, just give some general thoughts.
I enjoyed it. I didn't completely hate how it ended, but the whole episode just made me feel very meh. Like, yeah, there were some moments that were cool, but I don't know. Just the whole episode, I think, was an okay end to a not so great season.
Yep.
Yeah.
I can agree. Well, we'll save Captain for last. So go ahead, Tykoth. Go ahead and
Yeah, I'm actually, I'm not the action guy, but I really, really liked the action in this one a lot. I thought there was some like really tight choreography and some different type of combat we haven't gotten prior to this. So I really, really like and enjoy this episode. But it also is the safest possible way you could ever do this episode.
Yes.
Yeah, that is the biggest complaint I think I've seen.
Yeah,
all over the place.
It is totally good. And again, I don't think there needs to be surprises for something to be good, but it is just tonally feels a little bit committee-esque in that. Like we're gonna do this the most easiest, most non-confrontational way that no one can have a huge problem with it.
It feels like what Rogue One was originally gonna be, until they're like, oh yeah, you can do whatever you want, and then they kill everyone off.
Yeah.
So it's like what Rogue One was supposed to be.
I really like it, and Star Wars is rarely dangerous. I mean, very, very rarely. So I didn't anticipate dangerous, but it was a little safer than I was even anticipating.
Yeah. All right, Cap.
All right. Legitimately, when I went to watch this episode, the mood was, all right, let's just get this over with.
That's fair.
That's kind of how I felt at this point, because of kind of mirroring what Kleina was. It's just not a very good season overall, and there was a lot of good moments, but it's also separated by a bunch of issues that I have. And then with the inconsistency of the season, I was just kind of like, let's just get this over it. And I was actually looked at how long the episode was. And I actually was like, Oh, thank God. It's only 40 minutes.
See, that was the opposite.
I did want more.
Yeah, I was the
wanted
opposite
more.
because as soon as I saw the runtime of this episode, I was like, oh, great. Because I felt like, especially going in to the episode with all of the preconceived notions, all the leaks and rumors that I followed and was filled with, all the fan theories, and I don't put much stock in fan theories, so I wasn't expecting many of those to come to pass, but I was expecting Boba somehow. I was expecting a Fen Rao possibly, but not as much as Boba. And I was expecting much more of the Mythosaur. I was expecting a lot of stuff. So I felt almost let down at the end. Like, I wish there was more to this. Like, even the comments from like Dave Filoni and the actor that was actually in the suit of Din Djarin's suit had commented about stuff that made us think, oh, this is going to be super crazy of a season finale, and it just kind of fell flat. They overhyped it.
They overhyped it in the interview a little bit.
Yeah, they way overhyped it. Like,
and it doesn't need to be big. It doesn't need to be this enormous life-changing thing every season, for sure. But the way they talked about it definitely made it seem like it was.
Yeah, but going into there, back to my original point, going into there, having all this baggage and seeing the runtime was only like 41 minutes, but that's including the previously and the credits is around 38 minutes of actual show. I was like, wow, this is probably not going to be good.
Oh, I acknowledge a longer episode would have been better, but at this point, I was like, you're already 7 episodes in, and it's a train wreck. Just end the train already and get it over with. That's kind of how I was feeling.
Yeah, but it kind of surprised me and also let me down, because it surprised me in what it delivered and how much it delivered in that time frame, but it also let me down with all this stuff I was going into it kind of expecting to happen, and it just didn't. The biggest thing that let me down was just how little of the Mythosaur we got. There's basically nothing.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I was not expecting that.
I was disappointed by that as well.
I think they're saving that.
Maybe.
I wasn't, because I had zero expectations for this finale.
I had so much. Like, even... I just had so much going into it that I thought we might see, but I was for sure we were going to get some kind of epic Mythosaur thing, but no, nothing. But other than that, the action, like Taika said, was really good. There's a lot of really fun action sequences and moments in this that I was like, wow, that's brutal, or that's awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, I think one scene in particular, we'll talk about it later, but I think it might be maybe the best action scene in the show, or at least in top couple.
I kind of want to get into the nitty gritty, because there's several scenes that bother me or / like, but I don't want to skip ahead. So
yeah, no problem. Let's get into it. So we start out in the tunnels. They're running back, and she's calling out to Axe Woves, and he's just blasting off into the stratosphere.
This was issue number 1 for me.
I immediately, as this was happening, I'm like, what? Are you kidding? Like, we had this story element set up in episode 4, where they can run out of jetpack fuel, chasing a stupid dragon, Lord knows how far, and he's just blasting up into the stratosphere, freaking low orbit.
Starships are for scrubs.
To be fair, I've thought this for every episode of this season. Like, how much fuel can these really hold?
I mean, yes, it's cool. Axe Woves, probably my favorite Mandalorian in the season, in all honesty. That's just my favorite. Awesome. Personally, every time he's on the screen, I'm all for it. And the shots that they had in this scene are really cool. I love the helmet POV of looking down at him.
And the rain. The rain looks so real.
Oh, yeah. And we're not arguing how good this looks and how awesome it is. It's just the practicality, the logic of it, given what we've set up previously in the show. Obviously, it's like they set up that plot element of them being able to lose jetpack fuel, and it never pays off again. It's basically, it might as well never happen, because all of these guys, they're jetpacking all over the place this episode. No one runs out of fuel. And this guy jumps up into the freaking ship in low orbit.
Yep.
The whole time. And after that has more jetpack fuel to blast himself out of the ship before it crashes and save himself. So it just blew my mind, like why they would set something like that up to just blatantly forget about it.
It reminds me of episode 8 when all of a sudden fuel was an issue in Star Wars. Someone appropriately said, not that it can't be an issue, but it's odd that it is an issue, right?
Mm-hmm.
The same thing happened this season. We had an episode where like fuel is a issue, and a lot of us were like, "Oh, you guys can run out of fuel." I legit thought it was kind of like some sort of capacitor, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, now we're back to it's not an issue anymore. So
you could kind of say that in that was that the 4th episode that happened in?
Yeah, when they were chasing.
Yeah, that they were a lot less equipped and a lot more run down of a crew than maybe Axe Wolf.
I mean,
is, so
sure, that's
calling BS on that.
I mean, I was thinking about that kind of like you
because
could.
the Mandos in the cave are like practically have nothing. They're like down to the last bit.
Right, you could argue that they're scrounging for scraps. They're not as put together as these guys because they've been living like this kind of in cave for a long time and being used to not having a whole lot of nothing. Whereas people like Axe, who did the Stratosphere jetpack,
they're kind of at their top. They're pretty well equipped.
They have all their equipment and everything up to specs. So I guess that's an argument for it. But at the same time, I still feel like it's really weird that he just jetpacks through everything up to low orbit into a ship without any issues.
Feels cheap.
It definitely does, given that they didn't give us any in-universe explanation for it. It's only speculation. But what we do have is that they've set up that plot device where they can run out of jetpack fuel in episode 4, and then it never becomes an issue ever again.
Right.
And that's what I have a problem with.
Yeah, the issue is that
it becomes a little bit of that like episode 1 Jedi super speed.
Yeah.
Where like you have a power that you use once or don't use or faults, and then it never like comes into play.
Fun fact, that only happened because it was actually an editing mistake that they just left into the movie. It wasn't supposed to be force speed.
Oh, really?
Yeah, initially.
Funny.
But they just left it in there, so people just like, oh, force speed. So, but anyway, yeah, that's our first major issue there.
I have the same issue. I would say that if you were to try to fix this scene, have him fly above the clouds, radio the command ship, tell him that these are your orders, and then he looks at his gauge, he sees he's running critical, and he goes, here's blah, 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 here's everything you need to do. I'm running out of fuel, bye. And as he falls back down, right? Back through the clouds.
But then he might die, and I would be sad.
Oh, I was throughout the episode, I was so scared of that.
Yeah.
Well, we already had our death in the last episode.
Well, yeah, we could have had another.
I agree with Tyka.
Mm.
I was afraid he was going to die at the end.
Yeah, I was afraid for everybody, honestly, because I was going in there thinking, okay, Din's probably gonna die, Bo might die, Axe, he's up in the ship now, he's probably gonna die. I was scared for almost everyone.
I wasn't.
At the same time, I wasn't going to care whatever happened. I was just like, okay, somebody's gonna die. Who's it gonna be? No one.
Like I said, they killed him in the last episode.
Yeah.
Which, in all honesty, they should have saved him for the last episode if that was their intention.
Yeah, I don't know.
This is definitely one episode, these two combined. Definitely.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Completely one episode.
Yeah.
It was
Just split
that
up
way.
arbitrarily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They
But
should
yeah.
have combined this episode into the season finale and like have more, like at least one other episode that would give us better setup and lead into this, because it was in general a problem with the season. It didn't feel earned. Like we didn't have enough lead up, in my opinion, to this.
Yep.
It all felt very slow, and then boom, right at episode 7, we're Mach 10, and there's no good lead into it.
Yeah. My biggest those things are those big picture too, which probably come more into play once
Yeah.
Moff Gideon comes in. But yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll elaborate on that later.
Yeah, but okay, so yeah, we'll get there. Or they told Axe all the plans, and he's shooting up to the ship. And he doesn't actually get to the ship till later, but
It takes time to get into
Yeah.
atmosphere and into orbit, just saying.
Yeah.
The next major thing is Mando trying to break free.
we're wondering, oh, who's gonna save Mando, because that's the speculation. But I was happy to see no one, basically. Like, he just freaking went balls to the wall, and the Mando that we know and love from seasons 1 and 2 just going ham on these guys.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it was really good. It was really cool seeing him free himself.
It's nice to see him like pretty competent there.
I feel like he's been sidelined this whole season, and we finally get Din Djarin, Bad A Mandalorian this episode.
Yep.
Like,
I
he
agree.
was front and center and in most of the action, and he was really cool. And I don't know where this was the rest of the season.
Also, this is a little bit big picture, but I just feel like he looks a lot cooler, and they all look a lot cooler when they're little darker. Like, everything has been a little bit Power Ranger-y looking, and then but in the darkness and in these kind of like more moodier settings, they do look a whole lot cooler. And so having him in this was better.
I described several things this episode as being like the Power Rangers, and Ann kept making fun of me for using that description.
Yeah, especially in the brighter scenes, you know, it just really feels like Power Ranger to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny.
But in these darker elements in the caves and the halls and those Imperial things, they're just lit way better, and it looks cool.
Yeah. No, this fight scene with Din and these two guards was really good.
I like the hand-to-hand.
Yeah. What really threw me out, though, is where the heck did Grogu come from?
Yeah. And notice how the 2 times Din needs saving, Grogu has to save him both times.
In this episode?
Yes, in this episode.
I was about to say, Bo saves him a lot.
There's more than one instance of someone just showing up, and I'll save that for later.
Oh, yeah. I think we know what we're on. I think we know what we're on about.
Yeah, the last time he was seen, he was with Bo, and now he's over here.
Yeah, I guess, because we rewatched the last episode.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
So when we rewatched the end of the last episode, when Bo cuts the hole out of the door and they all escape out the back, so does IG-12 with Grogu in it. He goes through the hole, and only Paz is there to sacrifice himself.
And
so everyone escapes.
He breaks the thing, so it has to stay down, the blast door.
Yeah. So the last time we see Grogu is with that pack of Mandalorians, but he
somehow
miraculously
wanders
missing.
Off without anyone seeing him.
Or noticing or caring.
He's miraculously missing at the beginning of this episode with the group, and I didn't even notice it until he shows up here at Mando. Like, wait, he wasn't with those other ones? He was supposed to be with the other Mandalorians, so how did he get here?
I didn't see him either, but I thought he was like at the front and they were just showing the back group. That's what I originally thought. And then he showed up here and I was like, okay.
I mean, this isn't as egregious as what happens later. Because there's some explanations you can think he could have just split off.
Passageway.
Yeah, there's another passageway.
He used the Force to find his way to Mando.
That's my theory.
I mean, you can't question the Force, right?
Well, I mean, Grogu, he is...
That's not how it works.
The Force is with him.
That's not how the Force
works.
Yep.
But yeah, again, trying to come up with explanations for bad writing. So he shows up, and right at last second to help Mando.
He like contacts Bo, and she's like, "What's up?" And he's like, I'm going for Gideon. She's like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
So there's not much too bad here, and it's all good.
Yeah.
I'm glad, but she didn't know that he would survive.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that she's not emotional about it. She's like, okay.
She didn't really question it. She's like, wait, where's Grogu? But this is also an interesting part that comes up after this, is when the TIE interceptors and the bombers come up to destroy the ship,
and they look so good.
Yeah. TIE interceptors and stuff, they blast off to go towards the ship. And then that's pretty much over for a few minutes. Then we go to Gideon.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a whole map. He's tracking Mando and Grogu. How is he tracking just Mando and Grogu? There's no other people on this map.
Yeah.
Because I think it's just the facility. And
But
he's only
none of
tracking...
guards or anything.
Well, yeah. It's probably like...
Did he put a tracker on them? When?
I think it's more of it's in real life we have I think it's called IFF tags and aviation for the military. He probably just has a filter going, I don't want to see friendlies. Boop, and I just want to see where Mando is. Where
Fair.
are the all unidentified people going?
There. There's a lot that I could.
But why wouldn't he see all the Mandalorians that are escaping the base?
They're
on
not
there
in the
too, then?
facility anymore.
Yeah, they're not in the facility anymore at that point.
They're going through caves and ruins, which are
Yeah.
there's nothing in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this particular scene of him watching the map didn't really bother me.
I'm good with it.
I could totally go in and nitpick a lot of junk, and I'm gonna try not to do that because a lot of it can be explained away. There's just a few major things that I'm gonna try and get to that can't.
Pretty much all these nitpicks so far are things that
Yeah, for sure.
I would nitpick in every blockbuster ever made. Yeah.
This next one takes the cake.
It comes right now after this, where Din's going through, and all of a sudden, who does he call?
Yippee!
R5.
The freaking Deus
in my
Ex
notes,
Skippy.
I literally paused this and went WTF, wrote it in my notes, and put a big red square around it going, how?
Yeah.
How did he get here?
Okay, so fun fact.
Wasn't he always in a ship?
Absolutely not. So listen to this. We went back and rewatched the last episode. Nowhere in any of that was R5.
He wasn't in the cockpit.
He wasn't on the ship. He wasn't on the ground. He wasn't on the pirate ship. He wasn't anywhere. He was nowhere to be seen. The last time we saw R5 was in the N1, and the N1 was not brought here.
Yep.
So where did he come from? Nowhere. He pooped.
Well, behind that rock.
Use the Force.
He is literally Skippy the Jedi droid because he popped out of nowhere. He was just there. He was just on the planet. That is the most egregious, just Deus Ex Machina thing I think I've ever seen them do. That was obviously a mistake.
Yeah, I don't know if the director didn't get the notes that's, R5 is not on this planet.
Well, the director directed both episode 7 and 8, so
did.
it's the same director.
Yep.
And he's following a script. Anyway.
It's the writers that you gotta yell at, I
It's
guess.
like, how do you, there's some minor thing. This is not minor. This is a major issue.
I'm not having an issue with what Skippy does. And it's pretty clever. It's fun. I like what he does, and I call him Skippy because it's supposedly same droid from, the Skippy the Jedi droid comic. Blah, blah,
Potentially, I can talk about that later.
But that's just what I refer to him as.
I mean,
anyway,
he served in the rebellion, so the idea that he's in a combat situation is I
mean, this whole sequence with him was fun, and I enjoyed it, and I liked the little mouse droidy things when they were kind of heckling him. It was.
I love that. They group up on him.
But the whole premise of him being there just pulled out of their butt.
Yeah, and doesn't he fly away and we never see him again for the rest of the episode?
Exactly. Yeah. Absolutely.
So it's they literally brought him in because they're like, crap, we need a droid for something. Hey, just bring in R5 arbitrarily and then just forget about him.
I mean, to be fair, as much as I love him, Grogu is a bit like that too.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
He serves much more of a purpose in this episode, though, than...
Yeah, but at least
he
Grogu
does,
doesn't get forgotten about and get teleported places like R5 did here.
They could have totally rewritten this R5 sequence to make it more consistent,
is this a statement that how little they care about droids and there needs to be more droid awareness?
I mean, he could have flown in
Is this a social commentary on how droids are just forgotten about culturally? We need to appreciate them more.
God. So they could have totally redid this scene without R5 to make it consistent with the last episode, where they just have a scomp thing outside that Grogu could use IG to do instead. That would have made more sense than R5 coming out of the ether and then poofing back into it.
Use the subroutines of IG-12 to try to hack through doors because he's an assassin droid.
I still feel like he could just be somewhere on one of those ships. He's just a little droid. He just goes around somewhere.
But if he's on one of those ships, the ships aren't on the planet yet.
Yeah, the ships aren't on the planet anymore. The only ship that they had was the one that Armor took back up. And there's no ships come down yet by this point. So, and he was never with
the scene
them.
after that is when they come down.
He was never with them that entire last episode. We checked. We rewatched it. He didn't come off the ship with Bo. He didn't drop down with the Mandalorians. He wasn't with them when they were trekking across the planet before they got to the pirate ship. He wasn't on the pirate ship.
They do have some real wide shots there, don't they?
Yeah.
You see the entire company, and he's nowhere to be seen. So
this is a major plot point.
It's crazy. It's awesome. It's funny. It's funny if you notice it. And we're the only ones that I think really noticed that, because I've watched Den of Nerds, I've watched Star Wars Theory, I've watched Eckhart's Ladder, I've watched so many people review and talk about this episode. Not one person has mentioned this issue. Never even talked about it.
That is shocking to me.
It is, yeah.
I mean, I just noticed this, like, this is a big issue, and I noticed this on my only watch through. And I noticed immediately. As soon as I saw R5 stick his head around that rock, I was like, how the F did you get there?
I immediately thought, where did he come from? But then I just, forgot about it. And I was just, I was just enjoying the scene with him. But always I was like, where the heck did he come from? And then I wanted to make sure I wasn't high or tripping, because that's why I wanted to rewatch last episode, because was he with them? Like, where did he come from? And no, he wasn't with them. He just, I was right. He poofed. He just was there. So
teleported in and then teleported out.
Yeah. He comes in, scomps the base, yeets, doesn't elaborate. Oh, that's hilarious.
So while this is going on, another issue I have in a different scene that is playing is when Axe Wolves gets up to the fleet.
Yeah.
When they fly in on multiple episodes, there's three kinds of ships. They have the drop ships, they have the capital ship, then they have this intermediate transport.
Yes.
Those are missing.
They have the light cruiser, they have 4 Gazanti class frigates, and then they have the gauntlets and the Fang fighters.
Yeah.
So it was already an inconsistency, because in the last episode, they leave the planet with 5 Gazantis. They come over Mandalore with 4. And that was making people speculate maybe the 4th or the 5th one's going off to get reinforcements. But then we get to this episode, and the Gazantis are gone. There's no Gazantis at all.
So you noticed it too?
Yeah, I noticed. I didn't notice it my first watch through, for to be fair, but I did after I watched Eckhart's Ladder. He pointed that out, like, "Oh wow, really?" And I watched it again. Like, you're right. They're gone. They're nowhere.
My thought was, okay, get everyone safe or whatever, and they said use the capital ship as a decoy. I was expecting them to warp out of the system. Instead, they board the drop ships, go down to the planet, and the only thing left is the capital ship. And I'm like,
yeah,
okay. Now, if they had actually warped out of that scene, like if they were there and they actually said, hey, frigates, get out of here.
Yeah, have some kind of throwaway line that explains it would have been better.
Well, not even a throwaway line, even like an actual shot of them like warping out, and
then
the drop ships get boarded and all that. But yeah, nothing is ever mentioned about these ships. They're gone. They're not here in this episode.
Yep, they're just forgotten about. They don't exist anymore.
And you said the director did both episodes.
Yeah.
Where's the ships?
Yeah. And Eckhart's Ladder pointed that out, where in the concept art at the end in the credits, there's actually a shot where it shows the TIE Interceptor blowing up one of the Gazantis with the light cruiser in front. So it feels like the original plan for this was to be a bit bigger of a space battle, because we even have a Lego release where there's the TIE Interceptor fighting a Fang fighter, and we don't get that. There's nothing like that.
Oh man.
So it feels like they cut a lot of what that space battle was supposed to be and super simplified it, and for some reason all the Gazantis are nowhere to be found.
I bet there's a lot cut out of this.
I feel like it too. Yeah,
it makes me so sad.
I'll be honest, seeing him in low atmosphere and orbit, I was like, oh boy, we're gonna get what I've always wanted, a low atmosphere space battle.
Oh,
and we got nothing.
Okay, look. Okay, so I paused on the frame where it's about it's at 9:23, where they're leaving the light cruiser. You do see a Gazanti in the background, but that's it. I'm pretty sure that's the only time you see them, because they're not in the shots when the TIE fighters are coming in and destroying the ship, because they only attack the light cruiser.
Yep,
and the Xantis are nowhere to be found.
And they definitely did not go down to the planet. It was just the dropships.
Right.
So they were not there, then they were there, and now they're not.
Yeah. That's so weird, dude.
How do you lose track of what ships are in orbit?
That's so weird.
And apparently this ship didn't have his shields up either, because blasts go right into the hull. Once again, Star Wars forgot where shields were.
Or forgot that shields exist.
Yeah, which I was like, because I was thinking, all right, a bunch of fighters and some bombers. This dude's going to be able to hold them off for a while, right?
Yeah.
TIE fighters do a strafing run and a bunch of things blow up. I'm like, why do you need the bombers?
Yeah.
So I'm just like...
What are your thoughts, Tykoth? We're talking too much. What are you thinking?
I mean, you know me. This stuff isn't like... It just doesn't bother me that much. Like, I can see that it technically is there, but it just doesn't... It's just not what I'm after with Star Wars or these sort of, like, plot little devices or holes. I'm sort of just after the big picture and fun, and so it's not like... It's not a deal breaker for me, but I see...
Ooh, explosions.
I see that it's there. Well, not even explosions. I mean, like, I go to Star Wars for much, much different things than I go to for other movies. So, yeah.
I got you. Yeah.
I really enjoyed watching the scene where TIE interceptors?
TIE interceptors in the
where the TIE interceptors were like crashing into the big ship, and X was like, holding on to his seat, and I was scared for him, but it was cool looking.
I think that's what kind of, when I was initially viewing it, I totally didn't notice the Gazantes or the space battle really at all, and how simplified it was, because I was like, oh crap, what's gonna happen to Axe? Because I didn't want him to die.
Yeah.
So I was that's like the only character I didn't want to die. I didn't care about anyone else, but I didn't want Axe to die. So
my issue,
didn't notice it like that the first time.
My issues are when, like, more later on, when plot impacts the emotionality of something, and so there's a definite moment later on where there's this like really emotional impact, but it's impacted because of the way it was told. So I'll probably have more to say when that comes. But yeah, like and with Axe as well, there's something that I feel like should have been more clearly stated.
Okay, yeah, make sure to bring it up whenever we get to there.
Yeah.
I do have one final comment about this little space battle part.
Yep.
I was expecting him to like set the guns up to like auto defense or whatever, and then get the hell out, and then he gets in and starts shooting. I'm like, does this universe forget what computers are? I'm like, seriously, like you can't. There's no such thing as like defense mode or something.
Well, I think what he was doing, he got all the crew out. So obviously you need crew to run the systems, and so what he was doing was he's going around to all these systems trying to activate all the turrets, get them on the auto lock and stuff, and then he gets in the pilot seat and is trying to guide, as we see later, he guides the ship down towards the base so it can crash into it.
Yeah, but before that point, I was sitting here going, all right, you got the guns up, you got all the systems done, like, yeah, you got everyone else safe, you're risking your life trying to get these guns online to set up a decoy, right?
Yeah.
And that's when, but when he sat in the chair and started firing, I was like, why? Is there no, like, auto targeting systems on this thing? But I guess not.
That's what I mean. Like, I don't think he was firing. I think he set up all the turrets to auto fire, and then he just got in there to pilot the thing.
Well, here's the thing. There's a shot of him moving his hand, and the turret's moving and shooting, and he's just moving his one hand, trying to hit stuff. And then later, you see him use both hands, and the ship moves. So, to me, it sounds like they were giving me the impression he's aiming the guns. And I'm going, oh.
I did get that impression as well the first time I watched it.
Yeah.
Okay. He could be aiming one gun.
I don't know, maybe.
So,
it does, when he does move his hands, it does cut to I think it's a poor editing choice instead of what he's actually doing. He moves his hands, and then it cuts to a shot of the turret firing, and then it cuts to a wider shot of like the ship kind of moving and the TIE fighters attacking it. So I think what he's just doing is just piloting it, but it's a weird editing issue.
Well, then that's a really poor editing, because that gives the impression he's shooting the guns.
That's fair. I just think that's what it is. It's an editing mistake rather than what he's actually doing there.
at that moment in time, I was like, you're gonna pull off a holdo here? You're just gonna throw your, like, even episode 8 had this issue, not just holdo. Like, they would evacuate the frigates after they ran out of fuel, but the pilot would stay behind to pilot for some reason. It's like, do you not have like cruise control? Do you not have like an R2 that can sit here and at least hit the gas? Like,
yeah, see, there's no logical reason for anybody to go down with their ship in Star Wars.
Yes. And that's what I was getting the impression when he was sitting there, things are blowing up. I'm like, dude, you're throwing your life away for no reason. You're stupid.
Unless the ship itself is just utterly, completely destroyed while people are on it, no one should go down with their ship.
Yeah. So.
But when he was, I'll bring up this now.
Okay.
But like, yeah, when he was going down, that would have been a great time to just go ahead and let them know his plan. At that point.
What do you mean, like?
For like crashing down there, like a little sooner.
I guess. I mean, he did. Once he got through the atmosphere, or the clouds, he was.
Was
like,
it right after?
Yeah,
that?
it was right after he got through the clouds.
You can't message them until he gets below the cloud levels.
But
it
as
blocks
we established,
communications.
right? But as we established in the last episode, that's a little sus because we had our little Shadow Council meeting anyway.
Well, that's the thing.
But
other than that council meeting, they've kept that up.
I know they've kept
So
that
it's
consistent.
like-
Except otherwise,
That's what I'm saying. There's got to be like some retractable tower in that base that sticks above the clouds so they can send messages and then retracts when they're done. I don't know.
but yeah. So after he comes down past the clouds, he's like, "Bo, get everyone out of there," you know. But it's a little later.
Yeah, that's later. So the next major scene
Was really cool, really dope.
I think, I'm not sure if you guys remember, when we saw this laser gates last week.
Yeah.
The video game scene.
Yeah, I was like, I knew this was going to be an issue if someone wanted to get through there.
I said this was the stupidest design because all somebody would have to do was take the gates out one at a time and deal with the guards, and just two at a time while everyone else gets stuck behind the gates going, what do we do? And guess what happens? That's exactly what happened.
But even if they opened up all of the gates, like, then your assailant would just be able to.
Yeah,
If
it's
they
like,
were able to get through all of you,
turn
they'd be able to go straight through.
Right,
They were gonna
like if
open
you're
the
gonna lower the
gates
gates to help
regardless.
if you're gonna lower the gates to help your brethren on the other side, what is the point? You know?
I didn't have any problems with this. The only problem that I had when I rewatched it was like, wait, when the gate opened, the first gate opened, why did the guys look the opposite direction? But then I realized, well, it was a little kind of pause. Maybe they noticed it, but then they looked back towards the other door because that's where the controls were. And they're like, why did you open? Kind of be like,
They
why
thought
did you open the
they
gate?
opened the door.
Right. So I really okayed that with myself. I'm like, okay, that's fine. And then, Mando comes in and surprises them. And then this whole fight scene was freaking awesome. I
They get some of the best choreography that there is.
Oh yeah, I loved the video game-esque part of it. Like, he gets a new weapon every time he kills a guy, and it's so freaking cool. It was so good. I really enjoyed this.
It doesn't repeat itself in its moves or anything too. He deals with them all in unique ways.
Mm-hmm.
He has that spinning back kick to kick one of them off the edge.
Oh yeah,
and they still feel like somewhat formidable too, even though you obviously know he's gonna wreck them, but still feel like
that leads me another question. Why do you have an endless pit in your guard room to ordinary? Like, one bad slip.
Awesome.
It is classic Star Wars, bro.
I just who designed this place?
Imperials.
The same people that did the Death Star.
Yeah.
It's like they have a fascination with endless pits. I mean,
fascination with no guardrails either.
Oh gosh, like this.
That is.
I mean, like
that is Star Wars to a T.
Yeah, I'm never gonna like complain about that because it's just patented Star Wars. So.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it's an awesome scene, but my brain is here going like, who designed this?
Did you feel like that about the original trilogy too?
Not so much. Not to this level.
To be fair, there were guardrails on the Death Star pit.
Yes.
Except in the original one where Obi-Wan was doing his thing for the tractor.
Well,
there wasn't any there.
To be fair, you're not supposed to be over there either. Yeah. I mean,
but there was in Return of the Jedi in the throne room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
that
yeah,
had guardrails though, at least.
It's whatever. Yeah, it's whatever.
I mean, the thing about the Death Star, just real quick, is that the Death Star is something that we really can't compare to in our realm, right? We don't have a planet-sized, man-built machine that can warp across the galaxy and blow up planets, right?
Yeah.
It's just completely out of our league. So it was like, wow, there's an endless pit in the Death Star. But part of me is like, I wonder if that's a pit that bends all the way around. So if you fall, could you just keep falling in a circle? Like,
I've never thought about that. That is a thought right there.
These are the things I think of. But at the same time, I'm like, maybe that's there for a reason, right? Because the Death Star is just such a different beast compared to what we have in reality, right?
Yeah, this is a bit of a tangent, but I always thought like the pit goes to the center of the Death Star. I never thought of the idea that maybe it went like around.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it does for the reactor. I mean, I don't know. But that said,
that's interesting.
Going back to here, Mando, why do you have a bottomless pit in your guard room / hallway to your command center? What does that achieve? Like, it doesn't achieve anything. So that's my issue here. It's like you have a bottomless pit that can't really be justified in any way.
I like it.
I don't like it.
I mean, I like the action, but like the location is stupid.
Nah, this one I don't have a problem with the location. It's classic Imperial design Star Wars. It's fun. I like it. But the next scene is what I have a kind of a plot issue with, and we skip a little bit, but not really, because it's just basically Skippy poofing into the ether again, and then Din goes into the cloning vat room.
Yeah.
Oh,
This was bad. This was bad.
This kind of, for me, it leads into the rest of it for sure, but I think this is such an emotional and cool plot point, and I just like really like it, but it's just done so fast, and it's like the resolution of everything we've been waiting for, but it's just like instant. He walks in there, he sees what's happening, and it's just like, let's blow it up.
Yep.
And there's no real discussion about it. There's no real like reflection on what this means.
Yeah.
It just
there's no thoughts about the implications of what they're looking at.
And this is what I was referring to when I said it like impacted the emotion of it.
Yeah.
Like the contrivedness of the plot kind of. This could have been a pretty cool emotional beat for a lot of reasons, and it sort of just wasn't.
And it's kind of weird because it feels like it sort of out of left field. We knew that he was doing cloning, but there was what we saw in seasons 1 and 2 when it comes to the cloning stuff. This is kind of not. I mean, this is nowhere close to what people were thinking it was going to lead to, and we were thinking
Snoke and kind of.
Yeah, we were thinking maybe Snoke, Palpatine, that kind of idea.
A lot more simple.
They even reference it in the last episode. We were talking about Project Necromancer and how cloning was Hux's forte, not Gideon's, but then Gideon's secretly actually trying to clone himself, and that is kind of a neat thing. But like we've touched on, it's super rushed once again,
and I think it's one facet of the cloning story, so I don't think this is the end of it. There's more people.
Oh yeah,
but yeah, for this one thing,
it's like they kind of set this up to kind of lead into other galaxy-wide stuff with the First Order and their cloning of Snoke or Palpatine or whatever, and then instead they're probably trying to wrap up this show and they're just trying to kind of consolidate stuff and change things to wrap up the show into a neat little bow. So
for the movie,
right? So they don't have to worry about the bigger galaxy implications of the show, and it can all be centered and directed into this, and which is fine. I'd rather it be more this show centered and it have no real bearing on what happens outside the galaxy, but it's still sort of a letdown in how they handled it.
Yeah, it was almost like
he goes in, Din's like
because this is a 3-season build to that point,
and it feels
feels like it was tacked on last minute,
anticlimactic. Yeah, it feels very anticlimactic. And Din's just like, it's not him, it's just his clone. Like, he knows what a clone is. And the implications of all this. Also, fun little thing that can give us a little bit of a chuckle, I guess. I think it was another comment on Den of Nerds, and then Den of Nerds tweeted it, was that, why did Gideon think it was a good idea to have 60-year-old clones?
Yeah.
Like his clones.
Why not just make them younger?
Yeah, they didn't do any de-aging on them. They're just like the same age as him. Like, why are they still in their vats if that's the case, you know?
Maybe make them like 25 where you're at your prime kind of thing.
It's like if they're like flash cloned or something and they're just sitting in their tubes, never been out of them, and they're like 60 years old. What the heck?
I actually have a theory as to why.
Go ahead.
At the end, he dies, right? I know we're jumping ahead.
Yeah.
And everyone thinks he's dead. What if that's another clone, and now everyone thinks Gideon's dead, and he's actually somewhere else?
I had that thought that that's not really even him.
Yeah, I think it is. I think, you know, in all intents and purposes, Gideon's gone, the show's wrapped up, it's fine, he's gone. But there is a theory that it was a clone because that Gideon that we see in the armor and all these clones don't have a mustache. And guess what? He did have a mustache in seasons 1 and 2.
Yep.
What if they wrote it that way, or they did it this way so that they could kind of have their choice?
I think
later.
Yeah,
maybe.
because
later on.
Here's the thing: you could easily say he's alive, but it doesn't necessarily mean that he bring him back into this show, right?
Yeah.
He could be theoretically in story off somewhere with the First Order, for all we know.
They could pump him back into Thrawn or whatever they want to do.
Somehow Gideon returned.
They could have the actual Gideon like come up to Thrawn and be like, "Yo, I'm so sorry, bro. Like, you're the guy. I'm sorry for my failures, blah blah." And then Thrawn be like Palpatine or Vader and just eat him.
Or like he goes to Thrawn and goes,
Yeah.
everything went as planned. They all think I'm dead. This, and then all this stuff happened, and then Thrawn be like, excellent. You know, like.
But if they change their mind later,
if
they change their mind later, he could just die too.
Right.
So it's kind of a nice option for him.
Well, the thing is that there could be more of him all around the galaxy, and it's just like anytime one of them dies, they're like, oh no, that wasn't the real Gideon.
Yeah. So there's multiple layers to this scene. Okay, so we've touched this like weird just lead up and how rushed it felt kind of plot problem. But there's also another plot problem. You guys realize he's able to track them. And if he knew that they were in this room, why wouldn't he have come to save his clones sooner?
Because it's pretty important to him.
Because
that's
part of my point.
Monologue.
That's my point, is to sell the idea that Gideon that dies is the real one. In reality, they're all clones, and that was all part to sell this huge ruse.
That could be a theory for it, yeah, for sure.
Like honestly, if like that's the best theory in my mind.
Yeah, but say that Gideon is the real Gideon, why didn't he try and come in there and save his clones when he knew that they were in there? He had to go through there to get to him.
Well, I would say that his Disney Star Wars is stupid. They don't know how to write.
Fair. All right, next scene.
The next scene is where they stop in their little paradise for like a couple minutes.
Yeah.
And then they're like, we can hide out here for as long as we need. Oh, whoop, he's here.
we can hide out here. Oh, that's nice. All right, let's go.
Oh, a piece of candy. All right, I'm back to
I didn't know plants could even grow here. Oh, there's Axe.
Yeah, there. All right, we gotta go. Yeah, so it's not Axe. It's the reinforcement.
The armor.
The armor coming in with everyone else. Yeah.
But it was funny how fast. Because I was actually pretty into that moment. I thought, oh, this is neat. I like getting her little character moment of like rekindling Mandalore and into that. But it was just like, oh, okay, then we leave.
Yeah,
bye.
For sure, it's the same issue we had last episode where they're too afraid to stay on one scene, one plot device or plot point or emotional theme for too long. We have to keep this train going. You know, we gotta keep the action moving.
I wonder how much of that is, I know this is tangent, but still coming from Clone Wars, because Clone Wars is the most fast-paced thing all the time, and I do wonder how much of it comes from just working on that for like 8 years.
I mean, I would believe it if Dave was like writing and directing these, but he's not.
Yeah, he's not writing everything.
John wrote this episode, and Rick Famuyiwa, you'd think I'd be able to pronounce his name because it's Japanese, but he directed it and last episode. So it's weird that Dave didn't really have too much, as far as we know, in the actual development and
big picture plan.
Yeah, making of these 2 episodes, but it's so rushed still, and it does feel like that. It does feel a little bit Clone Wars-y in that regard.
So, what are you guys' thoughts
I
on
I think this season feels the most Clone Wars to me.
Yeah.
What are you guys' thoughts on the implications about Mandalore getting reseeded, as in it's not a barren planet anymore?
I mean, I don't care.
I like it.
I'm cool with it.
Dude, you know me. I count all this Disney stuff as fan fiction, so I don't care.
Well, okay, so question, what was Mandalore like in the EU? Was it barren as well?
No, it was not. It had multiple different biomes. It was mainly jungle and ocean and forests. And there was only one main city called Keldabe, and that was the quote capital, but there was no structured government. All the Mandalorians lived on the planet were in their own separate clans, and they only gathered in Keldabe for business and mainly little clan disputes and stuff. And that was where Mandal Motors Tower was, where they manufactured their ships. That's it. And the rest of it was little compounds all over the planet where the Mandalorians and their clans lived. And it was, that was it. So they completely screwed all that. In the Galactic Civil War during Legends, the Empire enslaved Mandalore, and so instead of bombing it, they enslaved it for their Beskar and made the Mandalorians like mine their own Beskar and stuff for the Empire and whatnot. And then between episodes 5 and 6, Leia and Luke, I think Luke was there, maybe it's just Han and Leia, but they went to Mandalore in search for Boba Fett to try and track down Han, and they helped liberate the Mandalorians from the Empire. And that was in one of those old comics that actually predated like current, like the most recent Legends EU stuff with the Mandalorians. So even that happened way back then. So yeah, Mandalore in the EU is way different, and I don't care what they do.
So you don't care if it's gonna be lush again?
It's whatever. They can do whatever they want with it.
Oh, I would like to see that. I think that would be neat.
It's fine. It's like I said, it's just whatever for me.
I mean, we see so much destruction in Star Wars. It would be nice to see. Well, let me rephrase that. It's nice to see when we get to see something like built up.
Yeah, for sure.
We got to see. We've seen Navarro, just constantly growing and getting more grand and like nice to see and walk through. And I'm like, I'm really digging this.
Yeah.
So maybe in the future in a different show, or maybe a show called The Mandalorians, as in plural. Maybe we'll see more of this.
Book of Bo-Katan. That's what this season was.
Well, and then she'll have her own show, and then Mando will show up again and do a bunch of stuff for a couple episodes. Then she won't even be in her own show, and then the cycle will be complete. But anyway, I thought this was neat. But yes, it was like, oh, neat. Oh, back to fighting. It's like, oh, okay. I think it may have been better suited for maybe at the end of the episode when things are calm, and then they're like, hey, we want to show you something.
I think that's a good idea to have it at the end, and like the idea of rebirth there.
Yeah, I guess they put it there just to break up the action, sort of, for just a little bit, give us a little tiny breather before the big old action sequence starts, because after that it's balls to the wall, dude. Like there's
this is coming from someone who hates action or just isn't very into it. I don't think you needed a break there,
dude. Like so we're at 17:09 right now, and
that's to the end.
Yeah, from there to the end it's all action basically until the last few scenes. Yeah,
I do want to comment about how the dropships are coming in, dropping off troops. The armorer has a jetpack now.
Yeah, we saw that and we're like, oh, Captain's gonna be happy about that.
It's like
it's
somebody
even
was
custom.
like, oh. Yeah,
It's
it was
even-
like...
yeah. It's like made specifically for her. It's like gold and everything.
Now, what's funny is that they're all flying in.
Mhm.
They all got their guns. Bo brings out the Darksaber.
Yep.
And then Armor's like, I got me mallets.
Dude, so when she pulls out the Darksaber, I thought, man, that is such a Rebels thing to do.
I
And
thought
then-
Yeah.
Yeah.
she looks like a Power Ranger.
Yeah, Kleina's like, she looks like a Power Ranger.
Now,
She dies.
ironically, I think the best person suited for this fight is actually the Armorer. You want to know
Really?
why I think that?
Why?
Because this kind of when both sides are having Beskar, right? You can't blast through it with your blasters.
Mhm.
I don't know why Bo's using the Darksaber, because again, it's supposed to be deflective, right? It doesn't
Well-
cut through.
You'd think, but she
Well, I
freaking
haven't
runs
fu- I
somebody
haven't-
through.
See, all right, you skipped that part. That was another thing in my notes. I'm like, oh, so much for Beskar for blocking a lightsaber, because I mean, heck, we've seen the Darksaber against Mando and other stuff in season 2, and it just glances off, and it's like, oh no, yeah, unless you hold it there, it won't cut through. And then later we just see Bo go right through the front. And I was like, that's an issue. You can't do that.
Also, I haven't read a lot about Captain Phasma, but this is kind of set up for that armor too, right? Like, maybe trying to explain how they got a hold of that for...
No.
character?
So
No.
what they wrote, so to explain her armor in a book, apparently her armor was made of material from the Eclipse when they salvaged the Emperor's personal flagship.
None of that armor is Beskar, or just it's
That's the
salvaged
mechanical
from that?
explanation for her
Okay.
amazing armor. And everyone goes, so there was only enough for her? And why her? It's like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
But even then, like, they've established that pure Beskar can deflect lightsabers because he uses that Beskar staff to fight
Yep.
Gideon.
That's what I
But
was talking about,
They-
yeah.
He also mentioned that these new stormtroopers or whatever they are outfitted in Beskar alloys, and alloys are obviously not as pure.
Imperfect.
Yeah. And so that makes a bit more sense why they can just she can cut through them a little easier, but they're still blaster resistant.
So is this
I
the
get that.
Empire going, instead of making it out of pure Beskar, which would be expensive, we make alloys out of it,
I guess.
and it will still get the effect with some compromises, and we can mass produce it for an army.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, I could see that.
Yeah.
It still seems kind of cheap. I think she should have been able to cut through it after a few seconds and not immediately like it was a plastic piece.
Yeah,
like
it feels
normally
like
is.
feels like maybe she should have had to do a little bit more work like she did at the blast door in the last episode. That kind of cutting through it.
Yeah, that's what I
Probably.
mean.
Yeah.
Or she could have just cut somebody's head off, like Django. I mean, you're just like, whoop, that could have worked, But I guess Disney doesn't want that. So,
Yeah.
but it's okay to just ram them through the heart.
The only thing in addition to that action that happened, I mean, it kind of happens during the action, but it's his final speech, Moff Gideon's sort of speech to them,
Mhm.
where he reveals exactly what he was doing with Grogu.
Yeah,
Oh.
trying to force imbue its clones.
Yeah, and it was a little bit of a kind of just an expositional
Mhm.
drop there.
So my original point about the armor being the best suited, she's
Oh.
using blunt force trauma, which is actually a valid tactic from the medieval period. Armor got so good during the medieval times, you couldn't pierce with a bow and you couldn't pierce with a sword. So what did they do? They created weapons that were creating huge amounts of force.
Yep, warhammers and maces and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, it's like, right, I can't pierce your armor. I'm just gonna turn the insides of this into jello.
Yeah.
So when I see the armor rocking up with her tools, I'm like, ironically, you're probably the best suited for this. And nearly a couple of seconds later, we are on this POV cam of a trooper, and next thing you know, here comes the armor going, oh, clunk, and I'm like, yeah, that dude's probably knocked out cold.
Dude, it's like, okay, so after this big old jetpack fight, we get to Din, confronting Gideon again.
Mm.
And I freaking love these pistols he got.
Yeah.
They're sweet.
They have so much punch and weight to them, I feel, and they're so cool.
Even on hitting his armor,
Yeah.
they still feel pretty weighty.
Yeah, so also the second coolest character to axe in this episode, they really did do a good job of making Gideon look freaking awesome.
Yes.
His cape looks so cool. It's red underneath.
Yeah, his outfit looks cool. His helmet looks cool. When he talks through his helmet is awesome. And they did a good job of making him feel threatening, even though, like, there's parts where most of the time the action feels too easy for the heroes. They're just slicing through people. There's not much tension. But I do think where I differ from people like Theory and the like, where they say that this episode feels like you're playing a video game on easy mode, I do think that they did a good job with Gideon's fight, because he feels imposing. He feels very powerful with this mech suit. He's giving Bo-Katan and Din a run for their money. And we'll get to the Praetorian Guards later, because I have issues with them. But I don't have issues with Gideon at all in any of these fight scenes, except maybe once towards the end. But, but yeah.
I actually don't love his helmet.
Really? I think it's awesome.
Yeah. I just little Power Ranger for me again.
No, I think it's really sweet. The only
I like it. I like his
no
cape.
issues. Yeah, the cape's cool. I don't have any issues with his helmet. I
thought he looked slightly Power Ranger-y when he puts his helmet on, and he
Yeah.
pushes his arms out to the side, and he's like, "Bam! I'm here!" and it looked like he was getting ready to power.
He's
up.
kind of got the Dark Knight effect of putting on like a big mask, and was like really clunkily walking around like a. I mean, he is kind of robotic.
He's in a mech suit. It's like a mech reinforced Dark Trooper suit.
It still looks cool.
I got Iron Man vibes when.
I never thought I would be critiquing something saying I didn't really like the way it looked. Like, when am I the negative one? That's
great. I like it when we have different.
We just finally found something that you don't like and you can't stand.
No, that's cool. I'm watching it now. Like, dude, this whole Gideon fight scene saves the episode for me.
Oh, like the fight scene as a whole. Yeah,
and just how awesome
it's the best.
Yeah, just how awesome Gideon looks, how cool they made him, how like imposing and dangerous they made him feel.
And every punch he does dents the floor, dents an object. It's like, oh god.
Yeah. And I mean, to be fair to the Praetorians, they had Din pretty much dead to rights until Grogu showed up.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that reveal shot. I wish it was like 10 seconds longer, but it was awesome.
Yeah, when the
Praetorians walking out of that fog.
Yeah,
it was so cool.
It was pretty neat. I do think though that they were extremely nerfed from the last episode. The power levels in general seem to be all over the place, because they were able to easily take over Paz. Of course, he was a bit winded. He was fighting for a while, but he stood no chance. He didn't do anything to them. But now, Din, after fighting a whole line of guards, escaping by himself basically, and Grogu here, just tiny little green aliens just jumping around.
I love it.
He's like, I'm over here now. Now I'm over here.
Yeah, they kind of feel a little nerfed.
Yeah, because he's like giggling and stuff. I'm like, okay. I'm just like, really? It's like you got these imposing guards, and they're like with this dramatic music, and Grogu's like, just jumping around.
Perfection.
Just kind of it clashes to me, but yeah.
It's interesting. Then we go back to a little bit of jetpack fighting, and I thought Casca Reeves, this little shot of her like dipping down underneath this landing pad and then shooting with her knee rockets was really cool.
Yeah.
I still don't understand why sliding on the ground accomplished, but it was neat.
It
looks cool.
Yeah, it's just
I don't know why you couldn't have just turned around and shot them. Now it'd be different. I thought she was gonna hide underneath and they were gonna fly by. I was like, oh, that's genius. And then she just turned around and shot them. I was like, oh.
Yeah,
okay.
That's what Mandalorians do. Mandalorians don't hide from danger.
It's not hiding. It's being smart and outmaneuvering.
But yeah, then
Grogu's
yeah,
jumping around.
and then
I
yeah,
love it.
and then we get more Gideon fight, and then I mean, just more of the same stuff. It's just super cool. Gideon's beating the crap out of Din.
OP.
He's it's just so good, so well done in my opinion. And so there's just more of that, and then Bo sees them fighting and comes down, saves, kind of knocks Gideon away. Doesn't really save Din, but knocks him away and be like, "All right, it's my turn. You go save Grogu."
Save you, boy.
And
Yeah.
I mean, that's fine. And I was like, great. Is she really about to take Gideon down by herself? I was about to say, great, another girl boss moment from Disney. And then no, she doesn't. She gets her butt handed to her.
Yeah, she doesn't even really put up too much of a fight. He kind of wrecks.
Yeah.
Now, I want to make a comment that between Gideon's staff and her and the Darksaber, you got better choreography than we did in the sequels with actual lightsaber masters and force users.
For sure. I did not think this fight scene was clunky or weird at all. Like the fight scenes in the sequel trilogy, I thought were really weird. And like they were swinging these lightsabers around like baseball bats kind of stuff. And I did not get that feeling from this Bo-Katan Gideon fight.
It's kind of, well, it's like pretty short though. There's only like a few swings.
Well, before we cut to Grogu,
there's 1, 2,
Well,
3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
It cuts back to it later.
yeah.
I know, I'm counting.
Dude, when
that. There's 7
dude, when
swings.
she freaking
8. So far, there's 8 swings between 2 scenes, so they're pretty
but
short.
when she freaking slices the Darksaber and he just lets her like push it up against his chest, and then he just like shocks her back, bumps her back with the staff. That was so creepy, dude.
Yeah.
This is
I was
so
like,
awesome.
ooh, that's a sick move.
Heck yeah, he's just like he feels like a Darth Vader in this
Yeah,
fight scene.
he really does.
As it's flashing back here and I'm watching this, some of the Grogu Force stuff, like it's very convenient that he's now really competent, but I also don't care that much because it's just, man, it's good. Like it's just fun seeing them finally like be a team together after.
I always felt that
Really tight choreography.
it wasn't a lack of capabilities from Grogu, it was more of hesitation. That's what I always felt.
And maybe a lack of being in a dangerous situation, like truly life or death.
Lack of confidence as well.
It's also kind of
Yeah.
convenient where he just gets trapped under tiny steel bars that he could use the Force to get out from them under, but he
He
doesn't.
probably could have just
Yeah.
like scurried back a little bit and been fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's nuts. That's the,
But just I love that they don't just make him destroy these things. They're like, hey, I'm gonna move a weapon out
I
of the
love
way.
how Din just totally grabbed that guy's chain thing when you know it's supposed to be like a zap thing, and he just like totally pulled the zap chain to like use it to fight the guy, but didn't get zapped at all.
oh, that zap.
I don't know what it's called.
It's like an electro whip or something,
Electrostaff or whatever.
or the whip
The
sort of
whip
thing that
one.
is in. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Which is an odd choice for a weapon, but
Yeah. But otherwise, I don't know. I'm kind of going back and forth on whether or not I think the Praetorians were nerfed or not, because Din had to put up a pretty strong fight, even though it was a quick fight, because I've got to keep the action going. He had to put up a pretty good fight up against them. He was struggling, even with Grogu.
It's just Grogu that
Right.
they can't fight.
Yeah. My favorite move was when he freaking just rammed that knife up the guy's face.
Yeah.
All right, so if everyone's done with that, the next shot is the one we've already talked about: ship crashing through the atmosphere.
Well,
there's
okay,
yeah, a little bit. There's the
More
Bo-Katan
fight scene.
fight a bit more, but she just
So it crashes
Really?
through the atmosphere, and then the Darksaber scene happens.
Yeah, I was gonna say I literally have it here.
Oh,
It goes
wait,
from Mando kicking the guards' butts to
Oh,
ship
yeah,
flying
yeah.
through the
Yeah.
atmosphere. So I was like, "What are
Sorry,
you talking
I was
about?"
skipping through. I missed that.
But after that is the big Darksaber.
Yeah, so he just kills the peeps, and then we get into that. Yeah.
So back to more fighting with the Darksaber, which again is actually I really enjoy the
So
choreography.
what do we think? What do we think when it happens and he destroys
Dude,
it?
it was the only event in Disney canon stuff that I can equate to this is when Duchess Satine dies.
I was like, yes, finally, we don't have to worry about the stupid Darksaber anymore.
I had a much more.
When I saw that happen, that was the same thing I thought. I'm like, oh, he's gonna be happy about this.
Dude, there's so many people that were so butthurt about this, but I was like, woohoo! Like, it's gone, boys. But I assume that they'll probably like bring it back in some fashion, fix it up. You know, they did the same thing for Luke's lightsaber in the sequel trilogy. They broke it. And
it's not broken.
They broke it, and then she repairs it. You know,
They
so
did the same thing with IG-11.
It's
Yeah.
probably like the most shocking thing in the whole episode.
yeah,
that they
I think
did.
that was probably what
Yeah.
most of these people were commenting about. Like, oh my gosh, there's so much history and lore, and the Darksaber's so
who
important, and they
cares?
break it. And it's like, it's not like it's a character. I don't give a frick.
Yeah.
Like, if Axe died, I would have been more butthurt about it, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm still surprised they did it. I mean, they could easily bring it back, but I'm still surprised.
I don't think
that-
it's going to be broken permanently because I think they'll make too much money on Darksaber sales. I mean, it's too unique as a toy. So if you got rid of
Yeah.
it, I think that would impact your sales. And that's all Disney cares about is money, 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 money.
I mean, it can be broken and they still sell it.
Oh yeah, I mean, or the other alternatives is that they put it in a museum, you know, where it belongs. This is like how old, you know?
But
I think Luke got gypped. He never was able to wield it. It's his by right.
he just comes back in the season 2 finale and he just dual wields them both.
when he took her helmet off, I thought two things. One, man, he took that off so quickly. And two, he didn't hit any part of her face when he took it off. Because, man, putting those helmets on and taking them off, I feel like I'm going to hit my nose every time I use one.
Don't you dare touch her face.
This actually comes up to a point that that I actually have an issue with this fight, is towards the end, where he's basically got her beat, but he does nothing about it. Like, he just lets her recover and just monologues.
Yeah.
It, like
'Cause that's what
like
bad
a
guys do.
stereotypical one-dimensional villain, just sitting there monologuing and
Yeah.
letting the hero.
That's every
I know,
blockbuster
but it's
ever
so
made.
cliche that I'm just like, are you serious? Come on.
I know, right? Yeah.
I can't name you another movie that doesn't do that in terms of like made by America and big
Yeah,
budget.
I can't either. I'm sure there might be, but I can't off the top of my head. But it just was like, come on. You're such a bad A. You're gonna let these guys just do this to you, ambush you, catching you monologuing, syndrome.
And then the
Yeah.
ship comes down.
Dude, yeah, when Max actually
Well, they have the sweet like their choreography with the
Oh,
three
yeah.
of them is really cool because that's really complicated to try and
Mhm.
manage and block. Is 2 against 1, shooting that, making it comprehensible, having Baby Yoda add in little cutaways there, but you very clearly understanding what he's doing. I just that's something that you don't think about a lot, but trying to block action, not only to choreograph it, but to shoot it and make it comprehensible is very difficult. 3-on-1, and that is really good.
Grogu force pushes him down, and
he
then
eats his staff.
he's like, "Oh, my weapon," and he's like, "You don't need that either."
Yeah, but we are skipping the scene where Axe comes down with the ship. He's starting to come down. And
It's sort of
it's during that.
yeah.
But when it was coming down, I was like, no, Axe, please don't.
I was
die."
so happy when he jumped out. I was like, he will not go down with the ship.
Yeah, when he
I was like, "Thank God he has a brain."
yeah, me
Right?
too. I was like, wow, he's the smartest guy here. Like he actually saves himself. That's great, because we've got too many people doing stupid heroics like that.
Yeah.
If this was any
Like
other
Paz in the last episode.
Yeah, I feel like if this was any other director or something, that he just died.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that they didn't do that. But then so we get back to the fight, and he's still giving them heck, dude. He's
Mhm.
not going down easy, and it's really the ship that does him in.
Yep.
Well, and Grogu.
Well, Grogu just
Little
pushes
bit.
him down and
That's- Okay,
uses staff.
that's fair.
And then he tries to shoot Grogu, and Tim's like, "Nuh-uh."
My boy.
But yeah, what I'm talking about in this action scene is really evident because they do something that would be normally hard to manage is like a lot of over the shoulders from behind two characters, and then they also do an over the shoulder of Grogu, and it's on the right angles of it to make it work, even though it's not like technically the way that you would see it. And it just like it's really advanced camera blocking.
Yeah.
But the way they do it so fast, it shouldn't be as comprehensible as it is. But and even when Grogu pushes him, they do a front to back cut like really, really fast. But it's so fluid of a cut, you don't even realize those are two different shots.
Yeah. I mean, this part is like really excellently shot.
Mm-hmm.
It's unfortunate. The setup to it was just so disappointing.
The one I'm referencing is right at like 26, 16, 17. It's like it's just that sweet cut that like goes from the front of Gideon to the back of Gideon. That really looks like one shot.
Yeah.
When he pushes them, but it's just like such a genius cut because and the sparks are flying in both of them, so it really masks that cut. Boom. So good.
Yeah, that's cool. I didn't notice that until you pointed it out.
Yeah,
that's neat.
Yeah.
But then the ship crashes down and the fire engulfs them, and oh boy, it's Grogu to the rescue.
Grogu saved the day this episode.
You know what this scene or the shot reminded me of? It reminded me of The Incredibles when Mr. Incredible throws his car up at Syndrome because he's monologuing, and he goes, "Oh no!" He gets sent into the turbine. It blows up. It comes crashing down. A ship comes crashing down. On top of them, a massive fireball. You think, "Oh, they're all dead," right? And then there's Violet just going like, "Oh, force field," and I'm thinking the same thing. I'm like, "Oh, they killed everybody," and then it's like, here's baby Grogu going, "Hey, force field." I'm like, what it?
Yeah, I've seen other people compare this also to Kanan's death in Rebels.
Yeah, for sure.
He does a similar thing.
It's super convenient, but I like it. I mean, I'm happy to see Grogu.
I'd rather that they would have just flown him away instead of doing this, like what feels like plagiarism of an older Disney movie.
I think the fire effects are amazing, especially in the wide shot where it's just like blasting over them. That's just beautiful.
Oh yeah, it's super cool.
And the music is like real whimsical and fun, and it's a new track too. It's not some sort of like rip off of something else or an old track imagined. It's sort of.
But this is my general complaint about Disney Stars in general. It's like, we'll do something like this. Well, hey, we'll even plagiarize ourselves, but we'll make it so like pretty that no one will notice.
Yeah.
Yeah, or at least that's what they hope.
When you're talking about plagiarizing, are you referring to Rebels?
I'm actually referring to a different Disney movie, The Incredibles.
Yeah.
Because it's pretty much a one-for-one. Hey, a giant ship crashes, giant fireball, dome with magic power protects them from dying from said fireball. It's the same thing.
Yeah. Then we get into some pretty whatever ending scenes. It feels like freaking Return of the King, where it's like 5 different epilogues.
Yeah.
5 different endings.
And kind of the first one is the main one that matters, where he adopts Grogu.
Officially adopts Grogu.
Officially daddy.
I always found it funny because we always joked about it being like, "Hey, don't you touch my space dad," or whatever. And then it's like, "Oh, now you're officially the space dad."
Yeah. And I mean, it's whatever. We've always seen them like that, so it's not a huge shock. Like, I didn't feel anything when they did that. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. What I felt was how stupid to name him Din Grogu.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, what? Like, of course, yeah, I guess Grogu Jaren doesn't sound great, but it would be consistent.
Right. I was like, why are they sharing the same first name? Because, like, not even Boba and Jango.
This is the first time. This is the first time.
I know there's an explanation they can't do this with the lore they've established, but I really wish they had their helmets off.
Me too.
I wish I could see him say this stuff, with his face, because it would come across a whole lot better.
Isn't this the only season where he never takes his helmet
Yeah.
off, or at least you don't see his
Yep.
face.
He wasn't on set.
He wasn't there. I'm sure there's speculation that there was a plan to have him take his helmet off.
Well, he's not in the
No,
suit.
he's not.
I know,
he was
yeah.
only cast as or paid as a voice actor for this season. But that's probably because
Really?
he was actually filming Last of Us and wasn't able to get here.
But he's also like not
Yeah.
in the suit in the other.
Well,
seasons
he
either. He's just a
is
voice.
for some of it.
Until when they take the
Well,
helmet
yeah,
off.
but he is for
Yeah.
some of it. It kind of depends. They use
Very, very little.
3 different people, including Pedro.
Pascal?
Yeah, it's him. Forget his name, but John Wayne's like grandson, and then there's this other like stunt guy that's in it. Yeah, in this season he wasn't on set at all. He was only voice acting it, and that was a speculation as to why they didn't have the planned removal of the helmet scene like towards the end, because apparently there was supposed to be one, but didn't happen. Probably during the last scene where we see him sitting with Grogu.
And
Yeah.
he's so, like, yeah, it's a problem with trending actors right now when they go. Timothy Chalamet was that, and now Pedro Pascal is that, to where one person basically is all of Hollywood for a few years,
Mhm.
and then they can't do anything.
Yeah. Now, because they made a big deal about he always had to show his face for each season for some reason, right? Like to give him credit or whatever.
Yeah, some kind of acting credit. But he's
Right.
since,
And so
he was only paid as voice actor. He didn't have to do that. They didn't do that.
Right.
Makes it a lot cheaper for them, that's for sure.
Which is interesting.
Dude, the next little bit right after that was when Grogu looks down the water and they show the freaking mythosaur again. I was like, you freaking teases. I freaking hate you.
Oh, yeah.
I wanted.
That's coming. That's definitely
Dude,
coming
I
back.
was so freaking mad at the underutilization of the mythosaur.
I wouldn't be so certain they'll bring him back. Knowing how bipolar Disney is,
Yeah.
they'll forget about it after this season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
And
bet.
the only reason they would bring it back is if they decide to do some type of bow-focused show or episode. Like if it's if we go back to the Mandalorian as we used to know before this season, then I don't think we'll see him again. But if they do something with Bo and Mandalore, I'm sure we'll see it.
No, I think season 4 is going to continue on with
Yeah.
Bo and him being.
Aww.
Since there's like a bunch of different wrap-up scenes, what do you think? Because it's basically just setting up where Mando's gonna be going forward.
Yeah, I don't have like a
I don't
ton to
either.
say about these because it's also like happy-go-lucky and perfect, and just everything is great and grand, and they have their place to live.
We
and
finally get a
exist.
wrap-up of this IG-11 plot point from episode 1, but then that's it. That's pretty much everything, and then
Your new Marshal. Oh, okay.
yeah, and then they Looney Tunes out. So that's interesting.
My thoughts on the very final scene. 1, Grogu playing with the frog in the midair, had to do that for the merch. And I think it's a cute little quaint little place for them to hole up in while they are taking jobs from the Republic and protecting Navarro. But it just left me with not like a super excited feeling, not a super happy feeling, more like just melancholy, like just it feels peaceful, it feels okay, but nothing to like write home about.
It's like we've come full circle. He's back to his old ways, basically. But in a sense, I'm kind of happy for that. I'd rather the show be a little bit more, I guess, not serialized,
simplistic,
but like one-offs. Like he would go off on bounty missions every episode. Like he used to be like in episode or season 1.
It did make me much more hopeful for next season that hopefully we'll get back to those bounty hunter episodes.
Yeah.
But I'm also afraid that they're going to just switch back and forth between that and what's going on Mandalore. I really hope they don't do that, because that really just, I don't like that.
I feel like they've set up the characters in a way that they could have Din have his show back, and we go back to the tried and true formula of seasons 1 and 2 with less of a build up to something bigger, and then we can have a separate show with Bo and what she's doing.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, this is what you like to call an arc to set up another spin-off show, because they do this with NCIS. It was NCIS, then it was NCIS Los Angeles, then there was NCIS New Orleans. Now there's NCIS Hawaii, right? And there's always a couple episodes in the main show that set up that spin-off series. So kind of the same thing here that I'm expecting. I want them to go back to their normal ways of doing things. I really like the formats of seasons 1 and 2 where we kind of just didn't have to be part of what's going on in major components of the galaxy. I really enjoyed.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to going back to that.
I really just enjoyed that.
But season 2 still had a little bit of a core.
Yeah, for sure.
There.
Because they were trying to...
like the rise. I mean, Gideon in general was a lot more of a core.
And they were trying to find Grogu's quote people.
Well, you have to have some driving force for the whole season to have like some whole story arc
which I still
end.
think.
But all the little things in between like make more sense within the season. And
I still think that's a cool plot point. Is trying to explore Yoda species.
Yeah.
I mean, they could dive a little bit more into that for season 4.
I would love that.
I'm not fully convinced we're getting a season 4, but there is rumors that they're going to be shooting it this year. There's rumors that they've already finished the scripts. I highly doubt it.
I mean,
because
there
it
were
is
also
written.
plenty of rumors.
He said so in an interview.
Yeah, but how much do you believe that? With how rocky this was.
I mean, it's not a huge claim to say I've finished the scripts.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean it's good.
Doesn't well no, but he says he's finished them.
I believe it when they say it's done.
I believe he's finished. He's finished them. Yeah, it doesn't mean they're approved either, but he's finished them.
Yeah. I don't know. It's gonna be interesting moving forward what they do. I'm surprised. What I was really most surprised about, and how just kind of anticlimactic in general this season finale felt, was that there was no real tie-in to anything else past this. There was no Thrawn post-credit scene or anything that could tie into Ahsoka or anything like that. It was just they just wrapped this show up in a neat bow, where it's like, okay, this could be an ending for the entire show, or they could, go off in some other direction.
Yeah, I think they were planning for that for both case scenarios.
It's very interesting, very safe, like we've mentioned, very milquetoast.
It's a very happy ending, right? Like, you could be, if the show ended there, you could live with it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I would be okay if the show ended, because then I can just imagine that Grogu and Mando live a nice, happy life for the rest of their life. And I don't have to worry about that.
Yep.
Season 4 comes back.
I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to that. It'd make it interesting.
I would.
I highly doubt Disney's gonna shoot like their best toy set.
Honestly, though, this season made me kind of not like Grogu, because he's the whole I blame him and them wanting him in the show for this season sucking so bad.
I concur. I don't think he was originally planned for this season, and I think there was some behind the scenes tomfoolery that made them bring him back in Book of Boba Fett, and then they were forced to have him in the season. And I don't think John originally planned for it.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Yeah, he was he was sidelined so hard, and every scene he was in felt contrived, and forced almost, except for the finale. That's the only time I thought he actually played a part in the show, was in the finale. But
everything else could have been done without.
All the rest of it is just kind of, he felt useless.
Sometimes he felt like a burden.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's why this season feels such a mess in comparison to, the other two seasons, which after watching this season, I want to go back and watch seasons 1 and 2.
I have actually been watching season 1 over again very slowly.
I kind of want to now, because I kind of I long for the good old days when Mandalorian was better than this.
Surprisingly, I'm curious. We can get more into this maybe during the season recap. But really quickly, at the top of your head, where would you rank the seasons? Because I would actually go, surprisingly, 2, 3, 1.
2, 3, 1. Interesting. I think I would go 2, 1, 3.
2, 1, 3.
Yeah. I really like 1. There's elements in 1 that I'm like, oh, that's fun, like one-off episodes that I enjoyed a lot. 2 had way better it was just like a step up from 1. But 3
I
just
think-
feels like a complete just train wreck.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It
that's a
doesn't
good
even
way
feel
to
like
put
the
it.
same show, to be honest. It feels.
I wouldn't call it like that bad. I would say there's some like
What a train
missed
derailment.
opportunities.
On this episode, after all of our discussions, I forgot to write down our ratings. I was going to, but I forgot.
6.5, 6.5,
I
8,
said
and
was an
7.
Okay, so now that we've discussed it, what are your ratings? We'll go Tykoth first.
I think I'm gonna hold strong at an 8. Yeah, I still had like such a great time with it, and I recognize the issues, but in light of the season, I guess, yeah, I think an 8.
Okay, Captain.
I'm knocking it down to a 6.
You were at a 6.5.
Yeah.
Okay. That's fair. All right, Kalina.
I'm gonna keep it at a 6.5 because the first half had many issues. Like the second half was really cool and I like it, but it's not like cool enough to like fix the stuff that I didn't like
In this particular episode.
in this particular episode. And then also like a little bit of the season as a whole kind of affects my rating as well.
Yeah. Okay.
And also, I just want to clarify that my rating is a Star Wars rating, not like an actual.
Yeah.
But a Star
It's all
Wars
arbitrary.
rating. Okay. Yes.
I mean,
Yeah, mine-
I think ratings are all subjective anyway, so
for sure, of course.
they don't mean anything.
I try to be as objective as I can.
But even with that, it's still your subjective opinion based off of what you feel is objective.
Mhm.
And I still agree. Like, for example, I agree with pretty much every issue you bring up. But for me, certain things fix or outweigh it. So for me, I'm going to probably, I think I said 7.
Yeah.
I would probably say 7, 6.5 to 7. But that's because the whole Gideon fight saved the episode for me.
It really did.
There,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gideon fight and Axe not dying.
yeah. If Axe died, I would have gone down to a 6.
And that, yeah. And
If he
yeah,
died,
that's
I was
where
going to drop a
everything
whole nother point because I'm like, man, you guys are stupid.
That's where the whole subjective thing kind of comes in. Yeah, it's just like whatever matters to you. Like little plot things they aren't really that important to me, but they might be really important to Captain or somebody else. Like that might.
I mean,
Well,
for
I
me,
mean-
it's also the feeling that the episode left me with. It didn't leave me like
Right.
excited, and it didn't leave me sad. It didn't really give me any strong emotions. It just kind of left me feeling kind of just,
Yeah.
that was okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I said before, I went in with all this baggage, and that's probably an issue when you go into something thinking you're about to see stuff and you don't. That's always an issue. So it's better when that happens to rewatch it. And I did like it and enjoy it more when I rewatched it, but I also noticed more things that were wrong when I rewatched it. So it
Yeah.
kind of evens it out. So I'm still stuck on like a 7, 7 probably out of 10.
But I just.
A Star Wars 8 is pretty good.
So, like, for me, like I said, I try to be more objective. I think a good example of this is that when we had that Pershing episode, which for all intents and purposes now seems kind of pointless, but we'll save that discussion for next week.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
But, I gave that like a 4 because I was like, yeah, I loved the whole lore and world building that we got out of it, but I gave that rating because, like, objectively, it just didn't feel like it fit in the show, right? It just
Still doesn't.
It was, yeah, it still
Completely
doesn't. It looks like they
unnecessary.
spliced it in there, and and so even though I enjoyed it because I was like, ooh, lore, world building, this is what I've been craving from Star Wars.
For our next episode, let's rank our
Yeah,
episodes.
we should do that,
Ooh,
yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so
Ooh, that sounds
let's
like
go
fun.
ahead and wrap this one up. There's nothing to really theorize what's gonna happen next, since our season's over. But
How
let's
about,
do.
do you think there's going to be a season 4?
Yeah, so we can do that. And also, what is your most anticipated Star Wars project coming up? So we'll start with do you think there's gonna be a season 4, Captain?
You may go first. I think there's going to be a season 4. I don't. you know, because if one thing I understand is that's consistent with Disney is money, right? If it makes money, that's pretty much all they care about. It's been very clear that they will make shortcuts and a bunch of other things as long as it makes them money. So Grogu's probably the best-selling merchandise they have made that's not from the original trilogy or, well, anything pre-Disney. So I doubt they'll just shelve them until Dave Filoni's movie, and who knows how long.
Fair point, but they're stupid. And they haven't released a movie in years. So
yeah, so it may be even canned.
Yeah.
I mean, because they cancel more movies than they make as of late.
Yeah. And they cancel shows too.
Yeah, but I think this is the one that they can't touch because, I mean, heck, I think they forced Grogu back into the show when it originally wasn't supposed to be because of that reason.
Yeah.
So I think this is one of those shows where I think eventually Din Djarin will be, you know, retired, so to speak, but I don't think Grogu will. I have a feeling that at some point they'll either make Mando the non-main face of the franchise. Like, he'll still be there. They'll have Pedro come in, do some voice recordings or whatever, and then he could leave. But I think the show maybe in a couple of seasons might shift to another Mandalorian focus, but I think Grogu will probably always be here. I think it's just it's basically the show that built Disney Plus.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's going away.
Yeah. I think you've got a point. For me, I think that they definitely have room to have a fourth season. They've set it up to where it's possible, and we can just have more Din, like in season 1 type stuff, which I'm down for. I'd be totally down for season 4 if that's the case.
Yep.
But I am unsure with all that's been going on behind the scenes. Granted, it's true. If there will be one. I just don't have a full 100% there's going to be a season 4.
Well, I mean, you were told that Boba was going to show up, and he never did. So
exactly, there's a lot.
It's hard to say.
Yeah, there's a lot of leaks, quote leaks, that were both confirmed and non-confirmed in this season. So it's, who knows? It's up in the air. Kleina, do you think there's going to be a fourth season?
I don't know. At this point, I don't really care. Honestly, I would rather. I don't even know if I'd rather. I don't know if I'd rather see another episode of The Mandalorian where they just like do bounty hunt type things, or if I'd rather see a new show that's focused on them rebuilding Mandalore with Bo-Katan and the armor and digging into more of this mythosaur
The
stuff.
Mandalorian lore stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure which I would rather see.
That's cool.
So I don't know.
Yeah, that's a fair take. All right, Tykoff.
I would be very, very surprised if there wasn't a fourth season. And I am predicting not separate shows for Bo-Katan. I think they're going to continue both. I think that it's no longer The Mandalorian as we see it, and it will include him, but I think it's going to
see that.
split between both.
I think that's the most realistic take for what it will be
Put
about.
an S at the end. It's now The Mandalorian.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah, I agree.
That'd be interesting if they actually did that, right? Like, what if this is the last season of The Mandalorian, as in singular, and they come out with a new one called The Mandalorians?
Yeah, the season,
that.
quote, season 4 has an S at the end, and we're like, what?
Or they just Mandalore.
Right, that'd be neat. All right, so we're going to move on to what is the Star Wars project coming up that you're most excited about? We'll go Tykoff again. We'll go Tykoff first.
The one that I'm most excited about that will happen is Ahsoka. But the one that I'm most excited about that likely won't happen is the James Mangold, the Dawn of the Jedi movie. I love the concept. I've wanted something like that for a long time, really exploring like the mythicalness of the Force and kind of that era. So I think it has potential to be incredible. I don't know for sure that it'll happen because we haven't had a great track record, but we'll see.
Nice. Yeah, that's good. Captain. I'm picking yellow arbitrarily.
I'm going to say I'm going to preface this answer with saying I'm not really excited for any of the projects coming up.
Out of them.
Yeah, but if I had to pick one, it would probably be the same as Tight Cause. I think I like the idea of exploring extremely old Republic. At the same time, I'm terrified that they'll mess it up.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because right now, the old Republic lore has kind of a bit of Star Wars where I go back to every once in a while. I'm like, oh yes, it's untainted. But they've kind of started working their way backwards. I mean, they came up with the High Republic, and that got a lot of flack. While I like the idea, I like it, but because it has the word Disney on it, I'm keeping myself reserved.
Yeah, very concerned. You will be. Like,
I mean, I don't know what all the projects are coming out, but
So, do you want me to tell you?
Yes.
Okay, so there's the Dawn of Jedi movie that we talked about, Ahsoka, Acolyte, Skeleton Crew, the Rey movie, and then the Dave Filoni movie. Yeah.
Okay. You didn't mention the one that I was probably going to say, which is probably I'm most excited for Visions coming out.
Yeah.
Because
and Skeleton Crew.
It is just,
I can't believe I forgot Visions.
It's just fun stories that don't have anything to do with the lore. They're not canon, so they can't screw anything up. So I'm excited for that.
It's not even really Disney either, if you think about it.
Yeah, I mean, I can't believe I forgot to mention Visions to you, because this whole time I was thinking about my most excited is Visions. And I know that you and I are two peas in a pod, because I am most excited for Visions as well. Because one, like you said, it's not canon. I don't have to worry about it screwing anything up. I can just go in and enjoy some fun, different takes on the Star Wars universe from all sorts of people. And this new season is going to be from animation studios all over the world. It's not just Japan.
And I am not... One of the reasons why I'm not excited for some of the other shows is because they reference these different books from Legends, and I just know whatever they do with it, they're gonna mess it up. It's not going to be following the stories that have already been told. They're gonna be creating something completely new and probably not gonna be as good.
And you don't even know any of the Legend stuff.
I know some of it.
Yeah, but you haven't read any of the books.
I read Dawn of the Jedi.
Oh, you did? Yeah. So if they make the Dawn of the Jedi movie and they screw it up, she'll hate it.
Exactly.
So, yeah. All right, cool. Well, if we are done here, I think that's a wrap. And I hope you guys enjoyed our discussions and weekly reviews on Mandalorian Season 3. And it's been one interesting season. Hope you guys don't hate us. And like and subscribe for more. Feel free to leave a comment on what you thought about the episode and the season in general. And we'll catch you guys in the next one. We are planning on doing a season recap, season review.
And comment what you want us to review next.
Yeah, we might do a little bit of reviews on other things, like Visions coming out. I think we might try and do some for that.
Potentially do something older that came out, recently.
I think we should do Star Wars droids.
We could. Yeah, I mean, Disney's got a whole list of nice vintage Star Wars stuff, so that'd be cool. All right, thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.